Welcome to City of Story. Before we begin, don't forget to give this channel a like and subscribe. 3 days ago, I came down with a terrible fever, nearly 104 degrees. When I finally woke up, I started having these bizarre flashes of memory. Turns out, I was reliving a story. Not just any story, but one straight out of a drama. I was the birth mother of the girl who took someone else's place, the so-called fake heiress. And suddenly, everything made sense. No matter how I tried to raise her, that girl Sophie was always difficult. Wouldn't lift a finger around the house. I figured, fine. Maybe when you raise a poor kid in a rich home, you just let them live like royalty. So I did. I had 3 kids, but she was the one I worried about most. And now, she blames me for the mix-up for robbing her of 14 years as a wealthy family's golden child. I asked myself, when she was in middle school, I gave her $2,000 a month for spending, not including clothes, housing, meals, and she still says I treated her poorly. Watching her now, the girl I raised for 14 years, sobbing her heart out like I'd shattered her soul, I swallowed down my rage. If the factory hadn't been short-staffed, I swear I would have stayed and had it out with them right then and there. Mrs. Parker, the other mother, tried to speak calmly. We've been caring for Rachel like our own. It was almost charity work. And our daughter doesn't want to see you anymore, so maybe. I cut her off with a voice like steel. If that ungrateful brat crosses my path again, I swear I'll knock her flat. Without waiting for the stunned silence to settle, I bent down, grabbed my biological daughter by the arm, and said, "Come on, we've got cattle waiting to be fed." Behind us, a few giggles broke out, her face turned red, then pale. I've worked with my hands all my life, strength has never been an issue. I nearly dragged her out of that picture-perfect suburban home. We turned corners, trees grew thicker, and the ritzy mansion disappeared behind us. Her steps grew slower and heavier. I could feel her arms sagging in my grip. Understandable. She's just a kid. Going through something this huge takes time. I let go and pulled out my phone. "Hey, Mike, yeah, pick us up from the location I texted." She lifted her head slightly as the van rolled up. When she saw it, she staggered a bit. It was an old, dusty work van, with feed crumbs stuck on the outside and empty water bottles rolling around inside. I frowned. It looked worse than I remembered, but before I could say a word, she silently climbed in and slumped onto the back seat, wiping tears from her face.
3 years ago, I came down with a terrible fever, nearly 104 degrees. When I finally woke up, I started having these bizarre flashes of memory. Turns out, I was reliving a story, not just any story, but one straight out of a drama. I was the birth mother of the girl who took someone else's place, the so-called fake heiress. And suddenly, everything made sense. No matter how I tried to raise her, that girl Sophie was always difficult. Wouldn't lift a finger around the house. I figured, fine. Maybe when you raise a poor kid in a rich home, you just let them live like royalty. So I did. I had 3 kids, but she was the one I worried about most. And now, she blames me for the mix-up for robbing her of 14 years as a wealthy family's golden child. I asked myself, when she was in middle school, I gave her $2,000 a month for spending, not including clothes, housing, meals, and she still says I treated her poorly. Watching her now, the girl I raised for 14 years, sobbing her heart out like I'd shattered her soul, I swallowed down my rage. If the factory hadn't been short-staffed, I swear I would have stayed and had it out with them right then and there. Mrs. Parker, the other mother, tried to speak calmly. We've been caring for Rachel like our own. It was almost charity work. And our daughter doesn't want to see you anymore, so maybe. I cut her off with a voice like steel. If that ungrateful brat crosses my path again, I swear I'll knock her flat. Without waiting for the stunned silence to settle, I bent down, grabbed my biological daughter by the arm, and said, "Come on, we've got cattle waiting to be fed." Behind us, a few giggles broke out, her face turned red, then pale. I've worked with my hands all my life, strength has never been an issue. I nearly dragged her out of that picture-perfect suburban home. We turned corners, trees grew thicker, and the ritzy mansion disappeared behind us. Her steps grew slower and heavier. I could feel her arms sagging in my grip. Understandable. She's just a kid. Going through something this huge takes time. I let go and pulled out my phone. Hey, Mike. Yeah, pick us up from the location I texted. She lifted her head slightly as the van rolled up. When she saw it, she staggered a bit. It was an old, dusty work van, with feed crumbs stuck on the outside and empty water bottles rolling around inside. I frowned. It looked worse than I remembered. But before I could say a word, she silently climbed in and slumped onto the back seat, wiping tears from her face. Mike, the driver, thought she was grossed out by the van and flushed with embarrassment. He quickly pulled over near a public dumpster and started cleaning as best he could. Half an hour later, the van finally rolled out of the city. Towering buildings were slowly replaced by open fields and forests. Her eyes grew more hollow with every mile. She must have been thinking her life had fallen straight from a penthouse into the dirt. 2 hours passed. We reached the green mountain line that signaled we were almost home. Mike dropped us off at the place closest to the plant, a plain, 2-story house we'd built years ago to be near work. It wasn't much to look at, but it served its purpose. Ironically, just 10 kilometers from here was a luxury resort. I had built a private villa there, 10 times bigger than the mansion Sophie was clinging to. I'd also bought up a few properties in major cities across the country, my future retirement plan, 1 home for each child. Let them choose where they want to settle. Funny how things work out. 3 workers at the factory all had emergencies this week, no one else to cover their shifts. So here I am, sleeves rolled up, back to work for now. Back home, I made myself a strong cup of black tea to shake off the exhaustion. Then went straight to changing, pulled on a stained apron, and stepped into my heavy rubber boots. My daughter stood by the front door, eyes vacant, silently watching me. Without looking up, I asked, "Want to come with me?" She hesitated, then gave the faintest nod. I headed to the storage room, grabbed a spare work outfit that would fit her, and tossed it in the back of the 3-wheeled utility cart. She climbed in without a word, and we rode off toward the feed plant. The road was deserted. Everyone still able-bodied in this town was already working for me. The moment we arrived, I got straight to work, mixing livestock feed, checking moisture levels, adjusting proportions. I gave her some quick instructions between movements, expecting nothing. But surprisingly, she listened. Occasionally, I even heard her whisper a soft "okay." I glanced over, her face still streaked with dried tears. It pinched something sharp in my chest. In those strange flashes of memory I'd had during the fever years ago, she was the impressive one, the overachiever, the golden child who studied hard so her parents wouldn't be disappointed. A kid like that, how could a parent not love her? Me too, I wasn't made of stone. Maybe you should rest for a bit, I offered, my voice quieter now. She shook her head, didn't say a word. She worked through the entire afternoon. That night, while holding her dinner bowl with both hands, she finally looked up and asked softly, "Mom, will I still be allowed to go to school?" The words stunned me. I nearly choked on the bite in my mouth.
What? Of course you'll go to school. Why wouldn't you? I replied a little too fast, too firmly. Maybe that was the problem. I sounded too automatic, too rehearsed, like a line I'd said just to keep her calm. For the next 3 days, I buried myself in work. Slowly, my staff trickled back from their emergency leaves. My daughter picked things up fast. She'd basically mastered the factory's routine already. But no matter how well she adapted, she was still just a child, a kid who should have been laughing at school, not hauling grain bags and work boots. Luckily, word reached my second son, the quiet, dependable one working abroad. The moment he heard what had happened, he turned down a lucrative job offer overseas. Caught the first red-eye flight home. The night before, I told her straight up, "Tomorrow, we're going into the city. You'll meet your second brother. Be ready by 9. She paused for a long moment, then finally asked hesitantly, "Mom, how many kids do you have?" I gave a small chuckle, "Counting you, 3. Your oldest brother Colin. He married into a wealthy family overseas, barely comes home. The second Mason, well, he's what you'd call a drifter, hops from country to country. Never sits still long enough for anyone to figure out what exactly he does. Oh, and by the way, we'll need to change your last name. I'll get a master to help you pick a new one. She blinked, and her eyes clouded over, but this time, it wasn't the same lost, broken look I'd seen those first few days. This time, there was a quiet, tentative clarity behind it. After discussing with her, we decided to change both her name and surname, a symbolic clean break, a way to wipe the slate clean and start over. She chose it herself, Harper Cole. On our way into the city to meet Mason, we swung by the registry and filed the paperwork. The three-wheeled utility cart couldn't enter downtown, so I swapped it for the pickup truck. On impulse, I took her to the estate near the resort district, a place she'd never seen before. White picket fences, emerald green lawn, arched doors, steep rooflines like a castle plucked from a storybook. Inside, floor-to-ceiling European cabinetry, built-in wine shelves, marble staircases, and imported rugs that cost more than a year's salary. It was lavish. Classic European elegance, everywhere you looked. Back then, we built this as a wedding gift for Colin, my oldest. He was supposed to marry the only daughter of a powerful old money family. Naturally, the house had to match. Your father and I lost sleep over it and eventually caved, hiring an international architect and borrowing a mountain of money just to make it happen. But in the end, he moved overseas to help run his in-laws' business and never looked back. I was so furious I nearly cut ties with him. Harper stood just outside the grand entryway, hesitant, unsure whether she was even allowed to step in. Mike, the driver, thought she was grossed out by the van and flushed with embarrassment. He quickly pulled over near a public dumpster and started cleaning as best he could. Half an hour later, the van finally rolled out of the city. Towering buildings were slowly replaced by open fields and forests. Her eyes grew more hollow with every mile. She must have been thinking her life had fallen straight from a penthouse into the dirt. 2 hours passed. We reached the green mountain line that signaled we were almost home. Mike dropped us off at the place closest to the plant, a plain, 2-story house we'd built years ago to be near work. It wasn't much to look at, but it served its purpose. Ironically, just 10 kilometers from here was a luxury resort. I had built a private villa there, 10 times bigger than the mansion Sophie was clinging to. I'd also bought up a few properties in major cities across the country, my future retirement plan, one home for each child. Let them choose where they want to settle. Funny how things work out. 3 workers at the factory all had emergencies this week, no one else to cover their shifts. So here I am, sleeves rolled up, back to work for now. Back home, I made myself a strong cup of black tea to shake off the exhaustion. Then went straight to changing, pulled on a stained apron, and stepped into my heavy rubber boots. My daughter stood by the front door, eyes vacant, silently watching me. Without looking up, I asked, "Want to come with me?" She hesitated, then gave the faintest nod. I headed to the storage room, grabbed a spare work outfit that would fit her, and tossed it in the back of the 3-wheeled utility cart. She climbed in without a word, and we rode off toward the feed plant. The road was deserted. Everyone still able-bodied in this town was already working for me. The moment we arrived, I got straight to work, mixing livestock feed, checking moisture levels, adjusting proportions. I gave her some quick instructions between movements, expecting nothing. But surprisingly, she listened. Occasionally, I even heard her whisper a soft "okay." I glanced over, her face still streaked with dried tears. It pinched something sharp in my chest. In those strange flashes of memory I'd had during the fever years ago, she was the impressive one, the overachiever, the golden child who studied hard so her parents wouldn't be disappointed. A kid like that, how could a parent not love her? Me too, I wasn't made of stone. Maybe you should rest for a bit, I offered, my voice quieter now. She shook her head, didn't say a word. She worked through the entire afternoon. That night, while holding her dinner bowl with both hands, she finally looked up and asked softly, "Mom, will I still be allowed to go to school?" The words stunned me. I nearly choked on the bite in my mouth. I walked up the marble steps, the thick red carpet muffling my boots, then turned back and waved. "I'm going to grab the keys. Come up and take a look. I had a room prepared just for you." 14 years. 14 years she'd lived as someone else, in someone else's home, and had never once set foot in this one. Every time I mentioned the estate to her, she thought I was bluffing, just trying to bribe her into working at the plant. So when we stood in the grand foyer, her eyes wide and skeptical, I surprised. But then she looked up at me, her dark eyes intense, and said quietly, "I've been here before." That caught me off guard. She glanced toward the fireplace and added, "Back in high school, a classmate held their birthday party here. I remember someone saying just renting the place cost 20 grand. She turned sharply to me, voice low but firm. "Don't mess anything up, Mom. We can't afford to replace this stuff." She pointed at the ornate stone fireplace. I chuckled. "You know how much that thing cost? Like, I don't know, 15 grand. 17, I corrected with a grin. I picked every piece in this house myself. You think I don't know?" Then I leaned closer and whispered like it was a secret. "But between you and me, that rug you're standing on? Total knockoff. We ran out of money, so I had it custom made to look like a designer one." Her mouth fell open. The disbelief on her face made me laugh. I took her hand and led her through the hall. "This whole place was supposed to be a wedding gift for your oldest brother, but he never moved in, took his wife's side, ran the business overseas, never came back. Didn't want to let this place go to waste, so I struck a deal with the nearby resort. They rent out the lower levels for events. The second and third floors. That's our private living space, off limits to everyone. By now, I've made back every cent we spent building it." We stopped in front of a tall door. I pressed my thumb to the lock scanner and turned to her. "Go ahead, try it, it's yours." She stared at me, like trying to figure out whether I was serious or just messing with her again. Just as she stepped forward, voices drifted up from downstairs. "Wait, didn't we already book this place? Who's upstairs? Maybe it's the cleaning lady. Hold on, isn't that Trisha?" The moment she heard her old name, Trisha, her whole body went rigid. I leaned casually against the banister and peered down at the group of teens setting up decorations. "Oh, it's you kids. Happy birthday," I called cheerfully. One of the boys, clean-cut, polite, smiled awkwardly. "Thanks, ma'am." But his gaze didn't stay on me long. It darted upward, past me, straight to her. There was something in his eyes, a quiet concern, like he wasn't sure how to greet her now. I vaguely remembered him from the story in those strange fever dreams. If I was right, he was part of the infamous love triangle, the one between her, the fake daughter, and him. In the end, all three got hurt. She didn't say a word, just quietly stepped into the room. I followed and gently closed the door behind us. Inside was a massive royal-style bed, big enough for 5 people to sprawl across. The nightstand and the wall-mounted lamp were both in traditional European design. A room fit for a princess. One that, for 14 years, the real daughter had never even seen. The walls were adorned with delicate bas-relief art, and beneath the sheer curtains by the window sat a beautiful antique harp. I walked over to the cream-colored wardrobe and opened it. "Want to change into something else?" I asked casually. "They're all brand new." She lowered her head, her shoulders trembling just slightly. Her voice came out faint, cracking at the edges. "No, I'm okay." Then she added in a near whisper, "Those people downstairs, they're my classmates. I think they already know." I paused for a moment, thinking, then smiled gently. "I'm going to change real quick. If you want, you can go say hello." She hesitated, then quietly stepped out of the room. While I was changing clothes, a sudden wave of mocking voices rose up from below. "Trisha, come on. Drop the act already. You seriously told people your mom owns this place. What's next? She's a billionaire. At least make your lies believable. Emily told us everything about your real family. Aren't you working at some cow farm or something? Ugh, no wonder I kept smelling manure in here." They burst into laughter, scoffing and stepping away from her like she was diseased. Her face turned bright red, shame washing over her in waves. She stammered, I wasn't lying." I leaned against the railing and called out, voice calm and steady. "Lying about what, exactly?" A tall girl with a pinched face, standing beside the boy from earlier, stepped forward. "Ma'am, you really should talk to Trisha. She's got a serious pride complex. You know what she told us? That you own this mansion. Isn't that hilarious?" I looked down at my daughter. Her eyes were shining with unshed tears. Her mouth quivered. I softened my voice just enough to tease, "Harper, sweetie, what are you doing?" Then I turned to her classmates, offering a gentle, almost apologetic smile. "She's only been home a few days. I haven't even had time to explain everything to her yet. Actually, not just this house, the entire estate near the resort. That's ours too. I chuckled lightly, keeping my tone casual. If you'd let me know ahead of time you were coming, I would have comped the whole thing. The whole group downstairs fell dead silent, like someone had hit the mute button. The boy from earlier looked like he was about to speak when a resort staffer walked in, balancing a massive cake box in his arms. 4-tier cake for the party, he announced cheerfully. Then he looked up and froze. Ms. Helen, oh wow, good timing. His colleague added quickly. Remember that guest who broke the antique vase last week? We told them they had to cover the cost and now they're demanding to talk to you in person. I shot my daughter a quick glance. I have something to take care of. You stay and enjoy the party, okay? Be a good host. When I came back later, I found her surrounded by the same classmates chatting, smiling like nothing had happened. I shook my head. These kids already learning to pivot faster than most adults. I checked my watch. Sorry kids, I called out politely. Her older brother just flew in from abroad today, and we've got limited time. I smiled and added, I've unlocked access to the rooftop lounge for you all. Have fun up there next time. Give us a heads up and we'll plan something bigger. A ripple of excited whispers followed me out. The rooftop that costs like 3 times the regular rate. Wait, maybe her mom isn't the janitor. I retrieved the house keys, then climbed into my Jeep and hit the gas hard, heading straight for the edge of the city. Nearly 90 minutes later, I pulled into an underground garage. Mason, my second son, was already waiting at the door. As soon as he spotted me, he jogged over, grinning wide, and opened the car door. Harper stepped out slowly, her eyes locked onto him. She took after her father, big, striking double-lidded eyes that always seemed wide with curiosity. They only narrowed when he laughed. Mason didn't say anything about the way she stared. Just grinned even wider, like he was used to being the center of attention. Mom, he said, Dad called me last night, said he hurt his hand, told me not to breathe a word to you. I gave him a look. Then take your sister out for a while. I'll go check on whatever nonsense your father's up to now. He shot me a thumbs up and gently took Harper toward the elevator. I remembered he'd bought 2 adjacent apartments and had the wall knocked out between them, a total of over 3,000 square feet. Plenty of space for both of them to relax. So I felt fine speeding across town to the ex-husband's place. When I stepped in, there he was, wearing a long silk robe, holding prayer beads, and speaking dramatically into a half-circle of phones, each propped up on a ring light stand. The bright LED lights washed over his face, erasing every wrinkle and dark spot, and the beautifying filters didn't hurt either. All right, sweethearts, he cooed into the screens. Something urgent came up at home, so I'm signing off early today. Love you all. After waving goodbye to his fans on camera, my ex practically skipped over, grinning like a politician at a campaign fundraiser. Well, my precious queen has finally arrived, he gushed, hands wide like he was presenting a game show prize. Come in, sit. I clicked my tongue and plopped down on the couch, tolerating him for a bit before calling it a night. The next afternoon, I was jolted awake by a FaceTime call. Mom, I saw pictures of Harper, she looks just like me, she's definitely my sibling. It was Colin, the oldest. It's summer break here, 77 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. Why don't you and Harper come visit? He texted over a location pin, along with a screenshot of perfect weather. Tempting. Before I could reply, their father, who had clearly been eavesdropping, chimed in like a kid wanting to tag along on a field trip. Your daughter just came home. You have to invest time into rebuilding that father-daughter bond, he insisted, arms flailing for emphasis. You know, there's scientific evidence that girls without fatherly affection tend to develop emotionally unstable attachment patterns. I rolled my eyes. What crackpot blog are you reading now? Still? I asked Harper. She paused, chewing her lip. Is Dad scary? She asked in a whisper. Before I could answer, the phone was snatched from my hand. His voice on speaker turned to syrup. Honey, sweetheart, it's Daddy. Did you have fun with Mason? Daddy missed you so much, my darling sunshine. Collins invited us both. Can I come too? What was supposed to be a 2-minute call stretched into a 30-minute performance. I could practically picture Harper on the other end, frozen with wide eyes and secondhand embarrassment. Mason texted me right after. He won't shut up. I called him. What the hell are you two doing over there? How's your sister? She's great, Mom, he chirped. I took her to the amusement park yesterday. She looked miserable the whole time, like she was being held hostage. But this morning, during my open lecture, I asked her to help pour tea and clean the whiteboard. I cut him off, already bracing myself. Let me guess, she's your teaching assistant now. Kind of, he said, laughing. But someone complimented her English, and suddenly she lit up. Whole vibe changed. I ground my teeth. She's been there one day and you've already turned her into your intern. Do you even have a brain? He yelled back, panicked. I swear, Mom. There was a surprise investor drop-in. Someone leaked I was back in the country and my superfans flew in from 3 cities just to see me. I had to host a meet. He babbled excuses nonstop. And just like his dad, that mouth of his never needed a break. Mom, wait, don't hang up yet. I haven't finished. Mason's voice crackled with urgency. What's the deal with Colin? Are we seriously going to visit him? If we are, I can just take everyone, no risk of getting lost. I didn't answer right away. Took a breath, but if I go, who's going to take care of the chickens, pigs, cows, and goats? He fired back instantly, voice full of Gen Z indignation. Hire people, obviously. Mom, it's not the 1950s. There are unemployed folks everywhere. You and your generation think struggle is a virtue. You don't have to do everything yourself. Before I could snap at him, the line went dead. He'd hung up on me first. Slick little brat. I turned to see their dad, same half-lidded smug grin he passed down to Mason, giving me a cheeky smile. Hey, darling. Why not let the boy handle the trip? Take the chance to bond with our kids. Going abroad. Sounds relaxing in theory. But in reality, a logistical nightmare. Unless everything back home is squared away, there's no peace of mind. I couldn't just leave the business behind. What? Let all the hard-earned property and livestock float off into the void? No, someone had to manage it. Someone had to carry it on. I picked up Harper from Mason's place and took her straight to the provincial job fair. They're accepting online CVS and doing on-spot interviews. Local and international candidates. I'm hoping to find a few good managers, I explained. But the moment we arrived, I nearly choked. Across the entrance hung a massive promo banner from the fair organizers. Every booth featured sleek, grayscale corporate headshots. Except ours. Our factory's poster. 2 live pigs staring into the camera, grinning like cartoon villains. I groaned, pinched my nose. We're changing that sign, immediately. Just as I was about to storm off to find someone, Harper spoke up. I could stay here. In case people have questions, she said softly. I looked at her for a moment, steady.com, then nodded. All right, I won't be long. But when I returned, my stomach dropped. She was completely surrounded. Crowds of people pressing in, all eyes on her. I pushed my way through the crowd, catching snippets of the conversation as I got closer. Excuse me, is your company really located way up in the mountains? Someone asked. Seems remote. And honestly, the pay doesn't sound very competitive. How are you planning to attract talent? Harper didn't flinch. She spoke clearly and confidently, voice steady as steel. Ma'am, a lot of companies list 5,000 to 7,000 salaries, but they usually pay the minimum. Ours doesn't work that way. My mother rewards capability. If you're the kind of person who gets things done without being micromanaged, she'll pay well above 6,000. No questions asked. She pointed to the brochure. We offer rotating shifts, flexible scheduling, and unused vacation days rollover. It's all in writing. One by one, people leaned in closer to the booth. Some took brochures, others flipped through them slowly, nodding. Notifications started pinging on my phone, interview requests flooding in. We'd already met a few promising candidates on day 1. Still, Harper and I agreed. We'd stay a few more days, give the right people a chance to find us. That evening, back at the hotel, just as I was kicking off my boots, a message popped up on my phone. It was her. The other one. I hate you. You never considered me family, did you? I had to hear about your mansion and estate from other people. I didn't reply. She changed tactics fast, the way she always did. Next thing I knew, she was blasting messages all over social media. Attacking me personally. Attacking the work we do. Her so-called business is a livestock factory crawling with flies and bacteria. Everyone there reeks of manure. Shower 10 times and it still clings to your skin. And that new girl just got there and already acting like she runs the place. Shameless. They're gone all day. Come home late, might as well be orphaned kids. Harper sat on the hotel bed, holding her phone tightly, her expression slowly hardening. The soft smile she'd worn earlier was long gone. Her fingers flew across the screen, typing nonsense. I knew exactly what she was doing, and I didn't interfere. She was the future of this business, and sooner or later, she'd have to deal with the uglier side of things. Might as well start now. These past few days, everyone in the family had been walking on eggshells around her. Their dad had even packed a suitcase already. But every time he thought about bringing up the trip, he chickened out and zipped it back up. Mason monitored online reactions like they were the stock market for split screens, each tracking a different feed. Meanwhile, I focused on onboarding the new hires back at the plant. The smear campaign from that girl might have scared off the hesitant ones, but the truly capable candidates still came. I paid well. Anyone with a brain knew which side their bread was buttered on. By the end of July, all 4 of us packed our bags and set off for an overseas summer trip. Colin had taken time off in advance and arrived at the airport right on schedule. Wow, this limousine is rare back home, Mason marveled as he stepped onto the curb. The moment someone stepped out of the back seat, he straightened like a soldier. Hi sis-in-law. My eldest son's wife was 6 feet tall, nearly 6'3" in heels. She wrapped her long arms around me and Harper, grinning ear to ear. Her Mandarin was smooth, fluent. Mom, Harper, I'm so happy you're here. Can we take a family photo? I smiled and nodded. She had tens of thousands of followers online, mostly for her lifestyle vlogs. I remembered that the other girl followed her account. Sure enough, not long after, my phone buzzed. You don't love me anymore, do you? You're traveling with her now and didn't even invite me. 14 years, you just forget all that. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Didn't you say with your own mouth that Than Hoe stole your life? That you never wanted to see any of us again? She texted back a wall of furious replies. I was upset. You should have known that. She's a thief, a fake. She stole the life that should have been mine. She took you, Dad, everyone now, even you treat me like a stranger. I took a deep breath and tapped call. She picked up halfway through the first ring. Her voice was soft, sugar melting in guilt. Mom, do you really not want me anymore? 14 years. You can't just shut that off like flipping a switch. I snapped, more out of grief than anger. You didn't call? Fine. But now you blame me. You really are a living little ancestor, aren't you? Then she broke down. My real parents, she sobbed, they're cold. They act so superior, but they don't even care how I'm doing. They say I'm nothing like Harper. They're planning to bring her back. I didn't sugarcoat it. Let me be clear, I said into the phone, voice like steel. Harper is my daughter. She is not going back to the Trujillo family to play second fiddle. That's final. You want to come visit? Fine. This house has enough food for one more plate. But if you pull any of your stunts again, don't call me Mom. There was silence, then a small laugh, one mixed with tears, like she'd been waiting for me to say that. Then I'll go ahead and book the ticket, okay? You better come pick me up at the airport. I blinked. In all the chaos, I had almost forgotten her biological parents had once explicitly told me not to let the real daughter have contact with me. And yet here we were. A second later, she texted me a payment link for her flight. I understood immediately. This girl wasn't asking, she was acting first, informing later. If she was miserable, she wanted the whole world to be uncomfortable with her. That was just her way shaking the tree until the fruit fell on someone's head. 3 days later, I drove Harper to the airport to pick her up. On the way, I finally said what needed saying. My voice was quiet, softer than I was used to hearing myself speak. Sweetheart, no matter what happens, you are and will always be part of this family. No one will ever replace you. She lived with us for 14 years. Of course I have feelings about that, but it doesn't change the truth. You're my daughter, my real daughter. Your father and I. We love you. Always will. It was the first time I'd ever said something so sentimental out loud. Honestly, it was kind of embarrassing. Okay, Mom. Harper turned her head away a little, her black hair falling just enough to hide the faint blush blooming on her cheeks. At the airport, The moment the other girl stepped into the car, the air thickened instantly. I sat between them, cut the tension with a forced smile. Well, you both have new names now. Why don't we reintroduce ourselves? She was quick to speak first. Hi there, I'm Emily Trujillo, a fusion of two families, neither of which she fully belonged to anymore. Harper nodded, reached out politely. I'm Harper Cole. I really love this name. They shook hands, just barely touching, then sat back as I drove. Emily stared out the window, but I could feel her eyes flicking toward me, then toward Harper. She was testing the water, one sentence for me, one side glance for her. Calculated. When we arrived at the resort mansion Colin had arranged, the staff was already prepping an elegant dinner. The moment I stepped in with the two girls flanking me, one on each side, the entire kitchen staff paused, just for a breath. Something in the air had shifted. They could feel it too. You're both born the same year, I said casually, trying to break the tension. So maybe figure out how you want to address each other. Before I could finish the sentence, Mason exploded. Oh, come on. This is ridiculous, he barked, nearly getting into a shouting match with his dad. We call her little sis and that's that. Harper's the youngest, period. She's family, he added firmly. Calling her by name feels cold. She's our sister. But she calls me by name, Emily pointed out, batting her lashes innocently. Colin stepped in, deadpan. We could always pull hospital birth records from that year and settle it by timestamp. Emily jumped in with a sweet fake laughing voice. Little sister sounds nice to me. I'd love it if everyone called me the baby of the family. I looked at Harper, gave her shoulder a light squeeze. Across from me, my daughter-in-law made eye contact. We all shook our heads at the exact same moment. Nope, the villa's Highland climate was cool and calm, the kind of place that slowed your pulse whether you liked it or not. The peace was almost too much. With so much time on our hands, I'd started dragging everyone out on family adventures, butterfly chasing, mushroom foraging, hiking, picnics. We were living inside a postcard or a fairy tale, depending on who you asked. That night, I got a call from one of the factory staff. Strangely enough, I felt relieved. Hey Ms. Helen, the voice said. That livestock feed formula we've been using, discontinued. But 3 plants want to partner. I'm emailing over their proposals for you to review. Should take 5 minutes, I figured. I leaned against the hallway wall, opened the file on my tablet, started scanning. Halfway through, soft voices leaked from the room next door. I don't want to study that useless crap anymore. I'm sick of teachers comparing me to everyone else like I'm some kind of failed clone. They say they're raising me with international standards, but then expect me to act like some perfect little housewife. That's not elite, that's a dressed-up prison. The voices grew sharper, more bitter. So, this is how Harper Cole lives. I thought she was pampered and spoiled. What a joke. What? You think that's an insult? I didn't get the same education. If I don't vent a little, I'll explode. The universe wasn't cruel to me, okay? I got to live with the Cole family for 14 years and I didn't catch any of their fake virtue signaling crap. I stood there, phone still in hand, eyes frozen on a single line in the document, unable to read even a word. I just listened. Every word. Behind the door, the sobbing began, soft, stifled, desperate. I lifted a foot, meaning to step toward the room. But a hand gently wrapped around my wrist. Mom, Harper said quietly, I know exactly what happened with the Trujillo family. Let me talk to her. I nodded slowly and stepped back. I don't know what was said between them that night. But something changed. Fast. The next few days felt like a time lapse. The girls became inseparable. Not just like sisters, but something even tighter, forged by fire. They whispered in corners, shared inside jokes, even ended up curled under the same blanket at night. By the end of August, I'd had enough of the leisure life. I insisted we return home. The factory was waiting, work had piled up, and both girls were about to start school. As soon as Mason got back from his business trip, I gave him the look, and he packed the car for the trip home without a word. We spent one day resting after the flight. Then, life resumed. Everyone scattered back to their own hustle. Except Emily. She lingered like a shadow that refused to fade. I told my birth parents, straight up, she said over dinner. Unless they admit they were wrong, they can forget about me ever coming back. She turned to me, eyes earnest. Mom, just keep raising me, okay? Then, grinning, she faced Harper. Harper, I eat like a bird. Hope you don't mind. Harper replied with a soft smile and a shrug. Do what you want. I'm not the one paying the bills. Eventually, the new school year rolled in. They were enrolled in different schools. One attended a prestigious private academy, tuition over $18,000 a year. The other, a public school ranked third in the city, cost barely a few hundred. Different commutes, no shared rides. But then, for the second time, Harper surprised me. Mom, she asked one evening, can I transfer to the public school? Changing middle schools wasn't too complicated. So we did it. On opening day, the two girls held hands and walked through the school gate like it had always been that way. They weren't in the same class, but every afternoon they walked home together, chatting, giggling, comparing notes. I'd barely been home a few days when the plant called me back. Their father stopped by from time to time, made up for it with loud dinners and extra dessert. Everything seemed to fall into rhythm again. Until the Trujillo family showed their true colors. Thank you both, Emily said quietly, for giving me a life of comfort, for making sure I had an education. But don't force your dreams onto me anymore. I've spent years chasing perfection, trying to one-up your friends' gifted kids. I'm exhausted. Mrs. Trujillo scoffed, the laugh sharp enough to cut glass. Oh please, she snapped. Without us, you'd never have made it to level 10 piano, or placed in ballet, or played golf at a pro level. You've got some nerve biting the hand that fed you. If you're so grown up, why don't you pay it all back? Harper paled. She was still young, not yet used to verbal warfare. I stepped forward and gently pulled Emily behind me. Money, I said, calm and cool, isn't always something you can itemize, so how about this? Mrs. Trujillo didn't notice her daughter's eyes darting nervously. Let Emily choose what she wants to study. I'll pay for it. Being a businesswoman herself, Mrs. Trujillo immediately saw the long-term benefit. After a brief pause, she nodded, fine. One battle down, education. But the school situation wasn't as easy to untangle. Emily ultimately did transfer to the private academy. Part curiosity, part lingering attachment to the glamour. The two girls went their separate ways. Harper made a clean break from elite art schools. She dove headfirst into agricultural science, preparing to one day take over the family business. Emily, meanwhile, swam freely in the world of bright lights and auditions. She chose vocal performance and modern dance. Her dream, to become a star. I didn't quite understand it. But the Trujillo family loved it. They supported her with everything they had. And honestly, that was fine by me. Passion is the best teacher. In just a few short years, Harper had already zeroed in on her major and built a roadmap to her goals. One day, she said to me, agriculture is heading toward market saturation. Studying animal science might not be enough long-term. I want to explore new channels, ways to position our products more competitively. I nodded so many times my neck hurt. I was proud in a way that's hard to explain. And Emily. She was no slouch either. She aced her top-level certifications in both vocals and dance. But what really floored me, the first person she called to share the news wasn't her biological mother. It was me. Mom, I did it. I crushed those tests. I probably saved you a ton in private coaching fees, right? I burst out laughing, full of praise. Seizing the moment, I leaned in and asked softly, so, any big plans now? She answered with a slightly uncertain tone, but her eyes sparkled with certainty. Nothing specific yet, but at least I have a direction now. 1 year later, June, neither of the girls repeated the mistakes I'd once seen in that strange memory that haunted me. Harper didn't let our modest background derail her future. She calmly and confidently completed her college entrance exams in a perfectly ordinary public school. As for Emily Trujillo, her entire family had relocated overseas. There were no violent school fights, no bloodied heads, no chaos like in that old vision. When college results came out, Emily flew all the way back from abroad, just to attend Harper's teacher appreciation banquet. The two of them stood side by side, each holding a tiny glass of wine that looked more like a toy than a drink, laughing as they clinked glasses. I've got final exams coming up, so I can't stay long. It's fine. Just promise to visit once in a while. We'll always be waiting for you. Some of the other parents pulled me aside to ask for parenting advice, so I didn't see how many times they toasted each other. By the time I got home and hit the bed, I was out like a light. Didn't wake up until late the next afternoon. Emily stayed for another 2 days before heading back out. Just before getting into the car, she flashed a bright smile and said, "Wait for me to come back with an acceptance letter from the conservatory." "Okay, Mom. We'll celebrate New Year together." The sky that day was a flawless, endless blue. Maybe it's only our human eyes that make the sky seem small, when really, it has no edge. I watched her plane cut through the clouds and disappear behind the horizon. 2 months later, my husband and I took Harper to the capital to start her new university life. That night, I bent over her suitcase, triple-checking everything. I adjusted every little thing like I wasn't quite ready to let her go. A breeze drifted in through the open window. And suddenly, my nose stung with emotion. Standing at the gate, I stood before the gates of the prestigious university, my gaze settling on the deep crimson archway glowing under the midday sun. A brilliant red, vivid, radiant, like the dreams of youth. My chest tightened slightly. The little girl I once cradled in my arms, the one I taught how to feed cows with her tiny hands, was now standing at the threshold of a grander, brighter world. That red, perhaps it wasn't just a color. It was the hue of a new journey, a path she would walk alone, armed with courage, and her own dazzling light. Side story, Emily Trujillo. I never imagined that I wasn't my mother's biological daughter. I, Emily Trujillo, was actually born into a high society family. In all the novels I used to devour, the fake heiress was always the villain. She'd live luxuriously under someone else's roof, clinging to her foster family, playing the innocent while secretly manipulating everything like a wolf in sheep's clothing. So I thought, I better strike first. Shut down any sympathy people might have for her. And my mother, oh, she was even more decisive than I expected. She took her away without a second thought. Back then, I thought she did it because she loved me. But what followed left me stunned. The Cole family. Turns out they were old money, discreet and powerful. The Trujillos, my real family, weren't even close in wealth. I was floored. Thinking back to the first days after I returned to them, all they did was mess with my head, criticizing my past, questioning my future. If I hadn't spoken up, I swear they would have taken me for an IQ test. "I'm fine, they're the problem." And what the hell was that talk about a distinguished fiancé? The guy wasn't even close to the rich CEOs from romance novels. Ugh, total downgrade. That fairy tale dream of being a true heiress shattered. From 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., my schedule was packed. Even meals were just lessons in disguise, like etiquette drills on silverware and posture. Mess up once, and I was instantly compared to Harper Cole. I was losing my mind. At some point, I realized something I never thought I'd admit. My old life back when I didn't know who I truly was, might have actually been better. So, I came up with a plan. I picked a fight with my mom, a big one, loud, messy, unforgettable. While the dust was still settling, I booked a one-way flight. And just like that, I officially ran away. Looking back, that was the single smartest move I've ever made. The moment that changed the entire course of my life. Because let me tell you, stars like me don't just happen. We're forged in chaos, in drama, in pain, and in glitter. The woman you see now, Emily Trujillo, international rising star, didn't just fall from the sky. She fought for it. She earned it, every bit of it. That's the end of the story. Thanks for tuning in to City Audio. If you enjoyed the story, please like and subscribe to support the channel.